But Steve, can you hear the room?
Can you turn the camera on just to make sure it's working?
The camera, I'm not trying to play with this for 10 years. Right, yeah, get her done. Get her done.
It all works.
My mom got her undergrad. That's 3 years. Weird. Wow. So she said, you guys have 4. Because I did.
You tell her it used to be easier back then.
You did it. So now we're getting the first grant in 4.
I don't-
This May. And so my next year, my mom was like, "We don't want to do it."
So-
We had to get this stuff.
Steve, are you
Yeah.
just seeing a blank
Get
chair?
out.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm seeing like a couple of tables on a square, nobody's sitting at them, but I'm hearing a number of voices.
Alright. To find out.
hang on a second.
Okay.
Or maybe in the news
Or
because
maybe.
it's gonna be a meeting today.
So, okay. Do you think?
I don't know. You never know what they pick up on, but it is gonna be in the.
Now splash that.
It won't be in the board meeting until next month, May.
Oh, so. Yeah, you're right, it could be, it could.
Yes.
Did they pick up the last one?
Did they? I don't know. I don't think so. And usually the only reporter that consistently plugs in is,
I'm hearing Jolene quite well. Now you've got it muted.
yes,
Blake's bringing it down.
Oh,
The,
you already have
was
one.
the
You
audio.
Yeah, I got it.
already have everything.
Steve, well, that's
Okay.
nice, yeah. Okay, thank you.
Huh?
Steve, can you hear us?
See, I got that.
Yes, I can.
All right, we're just gonna go with audio.
Just wait
Okay.
back here.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
You got yours. I've got 3 extras now that he wants to.
Thank you.
Hey, how's it going? Good, how are you? Thanks for keeping us safe. Oh, my pleasure.
She's just stuck on the phone.
Might as well get us through the minutes. It's my copy right there. Yes. Sorry, we're late. Our last meeting ran over. Okay, I'm gonna call this meeting to order. And I'll start by asking for a motion to approve March 22nd, 2023 minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the last minute? So moved. All right, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Okay, let's start with campus safety and security. Is Stephen here, Dr.
I don't think Dr.
Okay.
Irwin stepped in yet, but Stu's here.
A man who needs no introduction. I don't know where it's a good place to stay, the university, does he need to be in camera? You should come sit at the table somewhere. Okay, yeah. If you'd like to.
So, yeah, I'm Stu Height, I'm the chief of police or director of the University of Police here at Pitt State. Been here for about 5 years, 30 years with the Crawford County Sheriff's Office prior to that, so most of that investigation, so it's been a nice change, nice fit for me here, coming back to my alma mater. I guess I just asked, since it's my first time speaking to this group, are there any pressing questions you all would like to know? And then I can kind of tailor my answers to that, or. Anyone?
Not me, no, I was just.
These are the three.
Okay.
No, I think general is what we're after.
Okay, so obviously, we all have active attack awareness training on our minds. We can't turn on the TV without seeing another horrific incident. So with President Schiff's arrival, he's made that a priority to get that in front of the students and faculty and staff. And so we rolled out, we had a pretty lofty goal of rolling out at least 12 different large group trainings between the middle of March and the end of the semester. And we're just about to that point. We're about at 10, I think. We had 3 large groups for students, open sessions, and 3 large groups for faculty and staff, open sessions. And been well attended by faculty and staff. Students, I've had more success with tailor making that to athletes. I had 2 different large groups of student athletes. So many, and I think a lot of that honestly is, I think they were kind of voluntold by coaching staff that they should go to those and needed to be there. And so much more success, great interaction with them, well received, good comments after that. And, just really talking to them about not just safety on campus, but, as far as an active attack, anywhere they go, nightclubs, movie theaters, shopping centers, whatever. And just trying to get them thinking about those things. Thinking about them, thinking about that. With regards to that, so that's going to be going on. We also are hosting an actual law enforcement train the trainer response. It's a national program. And we get 12 spots, or it's class is 12, and we're going to have 3 of our own officers attend that for no charge. I love the opportunity to host regional trainings, showcase our facilities, as well as making it, inexpensive or free for my staff. It's a win-win for us. So that's a 40-hour how to respond to, and we train, K-State is phenomenal. They have sent anywhere from 6 to 9 officers down about every other year to train with our staff and go through the actual the simunition weapons where you're actually, they look just like a real weapon, but they're shooting basically, simunition rounds. They hurt, but they're not lethal. So, but we will go through a housing unit, a floor by floor, and respond just as if we got the call. And so that's valuable training. With one of the huge problems that we have in law enforcement, not just on the university level, but in my profession in general, is recruiting and retention. And it's just, I don't know how to say it other than there's just not a lot of people answering the call any longer to come to public service in general, but specifically law enforcement. It's just tough to find people, and we can't keep hiring retired folks or near retired folks. That's great to have the wisdom and experience there, but we want to appeal to, I don't mind being a stepping stone or a training ground for new officers. Makes sense to have it in a university setting. But yeah, that's a constant. I think I'm almost ashamed of this number, but I think I've replaced 14 officers. I have a 12-person staff total, but I think I've replaced 14 officers in 5 years. We have 4 original officers. So that's a huge, and one of the things that I feel we could do better from my perspective and from the university perspective is do something to reward that longevity. It's kind of decreasing. It's a thing of the past almost to see someone 15, 20 years. So I've got officers that are literally making about $1 an hour more than somebody just started out. Did a great job of getting that bump, that bottom starting level out for the beginning officer, but which caused compression. And I see that with a lot of my colleagues across the state, across the region, not just in university, but everywhere. That you try to get that, appeal out there to folks to maybe enhance them. But again, public service is not something you can really appeal with $1 or not. It's not to say that we shouldn't try it, but it's certainly, you don't want to be the highest paid, profession in town because you'll appeal to the wrong candidate, unfortunately. So those are things that we try to balance. I think that with those challenges, I think it's more important with technology for a force multiplier as far as campus surveillance. Video is becoming not really even optional anymore. I mean, it's just, people, students and parents, kind of expect us to have those spots. You don't expect to have a blind spot on campus. You just kind of expect it to, it's just assumed that you're on camera. So that's a challenge because that's not really it's not a realistic goal. But we've done a good job. We've added 65 new cameras in addition to the existing cameras. And of course that comes with a cost, and then they are about 5 years and then they're at their end of life. So, those are constant things evolving with, video management software. Nothing's ever just easy. You can never just, say, let's just go on, CDW or Best Buy and just buy this camera and that camera. It's way more complicated than that, obviously. Let's see. I'd love to explore the possibility with funding being available. We have no card access, swipe cards or door control. I think from a safety perspective, I think that's an imperative. I think instead of trying to the monumental Herculean task of trying to address individual classrooms, I think if we had better access control, I know it's tough on a small town, open campus. Everybody's used to just walking up the door and pulling on here. So I think we're way past that. I think we need to seriously look at those things and try to even if it's rolling that out a couple buildings at a time, because it's roughly I've explored it's roughly $2,000 a door for every place you have. So that's a big number when you start adding up all the buildings and doors across campus. So obviously you wouldn't have to do all if you limit it to one on the right side or wherever you determine a single point of access with the card reader, and then egress you can go out all the doors. Other things as far as previous questions, I've talked to my colleagues that talked to this group. I think you want to know about what are we doing in the region, what are we doing with our off-campus partners. I can tell you we have a phenomenal relationship with our off-campus law enforcement partners. The sheriff's office, the Pittsburgh Police, and even further than that. And so we work together a lot in regional planning. And, you know, I am fortunate enough to represent all of Crawford County on our regional Homeland Security committee that is in charge of dispensing or dispersing, handing out money over 12 counties in in Southeast Kansas area. So that includes police, fire, EMS, and public works to some degree. So that's nice to have a seat at that table and have a voice there for not only obviously the campus, but for all of Crawford County. Reporting on campus as far as students and faculty and staff, I don't know what other universities use, but we use the Maxent system for reporting behavioral health issues and or see something, say something type of you know, something concerns someone, you want to send it in, may not want to actually pick up the phone and talk to them. And that's a reality of the younger generation. As you all know, they're not big at picking up a phone and communicating. They'll text it, they'll type it up, they'll do. So, you know, we always constantly trying to evolve and cater to that and make that available to them. But sometimes, you know, as I'm giving these talks about safety awareness, we you know, we still have to say, hey, sometimes you just have to pick up the phone and call and tell, you know, talk to another human on the other end to get the fastest response. So in a nutshell, that's sort of what's going on here. Any questions on those comments? I don't want to take up too much of the time, but I'll be happy to speak at length longer if you want.
Sure. Well,
I don't have a question, but I do want to go back to the regular policy at the start. You said, what do you want to hear about? So, I mean, we believe what you do is really important, but it's very important on all of our campuses for security and safety of everybody involved. And we also believe that you spend time on the things you think are important. And so us doing that, then even though we're not going to have to do something on a given day, that demonstrates our support.
Sure.
And we also very much believe that it's always important to test when things is happening is what's actually happening where it matters. And so what our opinion is okay, but what you do is where it really makes a difference. So that's why we like to spend time on this.
Sure.
And also then why we want to leave it up to you to tell us what you think we should know, because we don't want to accidentally bind what discussion there might have or something that we really should know. So that's why they do this.
I'm thankful for that and thankful for the opportunity to discuss this. As I know my colleagues are, I talked to Chief Mosley from KU and Chief Grice from K-State. And we have a great KBOR Regents chief, chiefs of police meeting, as what we call it. Typically on Zoom because it's hard for us all to get together in that location. But I've hosted them here centrally. We've done KBOR. We've also done our MIAA conference chiefs. And because we find value in that of what they're doing in athletic events and things like that, large gatherings. What do you guys see that's working? What's your problem? So we have a great network of communication, as I know other department heads in other parts of the university have as well. But yeah, so I appreciate that. You know, as far as, you know, I think my biggest hurdle, I think, is to keeping people retained, recruiting some new people. And like I said, obviously the ever evolving safety concerns. You know, it was a little hard for me to adjust. Let me back up. I've had in the 5 years, I've had people routinely ask me, so what's the biggest difference, Stu, between off campus and on campus? I go, well, I don't know, but the biggest difference is our constituents not only want to be here, they pay good money to it, versus off campus being stuck in generational poverty, generational violence, you know, cyclical, you know, type situations that they may not be able to know how to get out of, or maybe don't want to get out of for whatever reason. So that's the biggest difference in who we deal with. So I really try to promote my staff to you know, engage with students, and I found so much value in that. You can just see they know officers by name, and it's so. I think we're the epitome of community policing. That was something that was, you know, community policing was something back in the 80s and 90s. You know, that was rolled out as some kind of new novel idea. Well, it's just like the old days where you knew your neighbors, that you would get out and talk to people, roll your window down. A little harder to do in the county where I came from, in any county environment. You know, cities, but it's perfect here. It's great to engage with our students and getting to know them and, hey, what's going on with you? And it just makes, it gives, they have a friendly face to report to if they ever should have a reason to. But I also say, what's the biggest challenge is balancing complacency with readiness, because let's face it, university law enforcement is much more, I don't say relaxed, but not as high speed, low drag type of environment as what off campus. They, you know, off campus partners go call to call to call. You know, we're basically, we have an opportunity to be proactive rather than reactive. And so I recognize that, and I know my colleagues across the state do too, and we welcome that. So I think that, you know, but you don't want to get complacent doing that, saying, oh, nothing ever happens, but you got to be ready. So you got to balance that. And so that's what I think that's my biggest task here in my position is making sure my team is prepared, both trained and equipped. We just switched over to digital radios. Those are things, you know, the little things you don't think about, but thousands of dollars to do that. And those are things that are unfunded, and our hands are forced at having to do those things. So yeah, but it's incredible to have the support of my university administration. And one of the things President Shipp has done is rework our structure, and I'm going to be reporting directly to him. So I think that's great value, and I think it shows his excitement and obviously his importance, you know, how important he cares about safety and security. So,
Thank you very much.
thank you.
We really appreciate your service.
Appreciate the opportunity.
That's great. Keeping us safe these things today.
Yes, I'll see you guys tonight at dinner too. So.
Thanks for what you do.
All right, thank you, guys.
All right. John Yeri. Regent Harrison Lee's reported conflict of interest.
Yes, sir. So, in accordance with the board's policy, it calls, this particular policy calls for each board member to disclose at the time of taking office and subsequently as the need arises, certain transactional interests, memberships and affiliations, and provides that the board will review those disclosures and make a participation determination. We had this recently come up in November with another regent. So Regent Harrison Lee has been accepted to Wichita State University Graduate School as a doctoral student and begins studies this summer. And you recall, we had another regent report a similar potential conflict last November at a different institution. And the governance committee in that case noted the importance of the board encouraging individuals to pursue their educational aspirations, discuss the potential conflicts that could arise when a regent is also a student in the university, including the program in which the regent is enrolled, coming before the board for adjustments in fees or tuition or for program review. The committee in that case recommended that the regent should excuse herself from any board action directly impacting the program in which she is enrolled. And staff in this case recommends the same direction be given to Regent Harrison Lee. And then she excuses herself from participating on behalf of the board in matters involving or related to this interest.
Low conflict, I guess. All right, yeah, I think I'd say precedent. Good plan.
That's what we do, so we should encourage.
Yes,
So if we have to move something,
well, I think we got to pass the board just over the policy.
okay. But we don't have to,
Regent
we
Mendoza.
don't have to have an action, we just have to change.
I think you motioned, yeah, you move and then I'll second. Okay. All right. So you move that we do the same, I'll move that we do the same thing.
Okay, I'll second that.
Okay. Now you guys figure out who made the first motion.
Yeah.
One of us did it, one of us second.
I tell you, being in the star dressing room for our first meeting is not in
It's
your
got in
head.
my head.
Not in your head.
Just couldn't stop.
Excuse
staring
me,
at that
I'm
mirror.
gonna.
Lights are-
Yes, you
All
moved.
right.
Mr. Chair.
Yeah, all in favor, please say aye.
Yeah.
Aye. Great, congratulations. Yep. And any abstention? Yes, okay. Thank you. That's great, it's exciting. All right, Julene, 2024 University CEO assessment discussion.
Okay, remember back to your September meeting, this committee directed staff to make a few changes in the evaluation process. But at that time, the committee decided to continue discussing proposed changes to the actual survey tool. and not make them effective until 2024, since we were in the middle of a cycle for the 2023 assessments already. So now we're at the point where substantive changes, if you want to make any, to the 24 assessment tool need to be considered and acted on by both this committee and then the board. And I do understand that there may be other process changes that you want to see for next year as well, including maybe how the CEOs handle their self-assessments. But for today, the materials that I gave you are all about the tool. So if you look under tab 3, there's, again, same thing as last month, a marked up copy of the assessment tool that contains suggested changes that we've received from Regents. There's essentially 3 buckets. I don't think that you need to or want to, but I will if you do, go through them page by page. But the 3 buckets are edits to sections 1 through 5 that were provided by Regent Winter, language changes. They do add a couple of themes or topics that weren't previously listed in the factors to consider when you're addressing different aspects of the CEO's performance. Then the second bucket in my mind is additions to the language or the commentary that comes before pillar 1 of the board's strategic plan. That's in section 6. And those were suggested by Regent Lane at our request. And they include most of the foundational metrics that the board approved last month or 2 months ago, I guess now, for the dashboard. And then the third bucket in my mind is staff's recommendation to transform some of the questions in section 6, 8 to 11 and 13 and 15 into statements or graphs that indicate whether or not enrollment has increased or not in the various categories in pillar 1, and whether the university CEO has made specified progress on pillars 2 and 3. And we're thinking that this change would address Regents' concerns that about these being framed as questions when they don't really require any discretion or judgment on the part of the Regent to answer. So that was a way of leaving the importance of those metrics in the tool, but not make you feel like it was a test of some sort that you were being tested on how to read a graph. Then, as I said, Regent Winter's suggested edits, same as what you reviewed last September, same as what were in the materials last month, few language changes. For Regent Lane's suggested changes, if you look on pages 10 to 11 of your materials, I've noted in the margin that what is currently listed in there as a supporting metric may change with the board's action on pillar 1 supporting metrics for the dashboards. And then on the bottom of page 11, Regent Lane has recommended that the Gen Ed framework and the co-requisite math also be listed as foundational metrics in the CEO assessment tool, even though they're not included in the dashboard. So those are recommendations, questions, I guess, for this committee, looking for your feedback. If there's any other questions, statements, or graphs you would like to see in the tool. For instance, do we need something around the maintenance assessment specifically, or around implementing the NISS playbooks specifically? We can create new questions around those, or we can give text boxes around those. We can do a variety of things if you want to emphasize certain topics in the tool. One way you've done that in the past is by requiring your CEOs to include certain things in their goals for the next year. Right now, they're including legislative engagement and facilities maintenance. And if my question for you is, are those the correct? Are those do we want to keep those as your focus for their goals going forward? Or do you want to switch that up a little bit and have them address different goals within the 6 that you've asked them to limit their own goals to for future years. A lot of information spewed at you, but I didn't know if you wanted to go through this.
Yeah, and so I think the outcome of this is gonna be we're gonna take it and get feedback from the CEOs,
Yes,
right? Would be the outcome of this discussion, so. We'll get their feedback, consider their feedback on, then they'll go to the board and we'll have another bite of the apple, maybe, right? So, yeah, if you guys go through this, anything that we need to address prior to sending it for CEOs.
I'm thinking about, probably a question for like my friend is, they went back to this playbooks and haven't given the rest of things. Do you see that as an area? And if so, how would we incorporate that into?
Yeah, I do see that as an area that we probably need to memorialize them. And I'd like to get with my team and just say, is it enough to say playbook, which is a big generic, or do we parse out about 3 items such as centralized advising, these certain items, that may be, important. It's kind of one thing to say the whole playbook, but that's really, and I'd like to just have a discussion about that first before, but it does need to be, somehow that does need to be.
I'm thinking about how much that's captured in the new language, regional learning. It's not. It's not covered through the map on the end, but I know that these things generally are the outcomes. Of work, so what strategies they have to drive those outcomes. Theoretically, or they need an individual call out.
I think each one of those are important enough to have an individual call out. The correction that is certainly those framework, that framework is. Those maybe weren't as much in the tool as some things around the three pathways. I just need to get the tool and tease those out, and we can do that quickly. I mean, that's not that take. And I'm thinking maybe about 3 items. Centralized advising is important.
Are you thinking in terms of where is it there say, did you get it done in the 2024? Or is that you're wanting that as one of their goals, or what's the?
Well, yeah, I expect for them to get it done, and then, how does it look? There might be some, it might not be all just objective. Because centralized advising can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. And so I'm just not ready to say without, I'd like to get with Dr. Archer and really kind of think about how would this best be put in there. I don't want to memorialize something that they've already done, and then 3 years from now, we can pull it out because it's like, well, I'm checking. Well, facilities maintenance is a little different because it's in every thing that you make the maintenance assessment, this is a little different.
So we could pull those out, then the development in terms of timing and getting.
We could probably look like CEO feedback. Same time, and I wouldn't delay that.
Yeah.
I
Would you be able to get it?
Yeah, I think it's parallel.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Carl, your thoughts, you looked at the rough fix.
I think it's fine to go and see, and I think that's what we need to do. Some of these strike me as a little specific if we think about where we are in the cycle. So we haven't made our 24 goals yet as regions. Now, is it likely we're going to have math rate? Probably, but we're loading the tool now for something that will become an objective later. So again, those strike me as a little specific, and we're really, I think, thinking bigger outcomes. probably personal preference from my perspective. I feel no qualms about, if I want to say something about the NIS playbooks, right in the comments of in the section about how we're doing towards students reaching graduation. Seems like that's what it's supposed to do. So, but there's probably 9 different ways to view this. So I think we go get the comments, see what, see what the regents have to say and recognize we've got to be a little careful about how we see them with our objectives.
That's actually. I go to approach, it might be in there. How are you working to implement board goals? That might be and then there might be specificity after the fact, because we don't, we don't really know the goals. But everybody is gonna know the goals pretty soon. And then there would be, that would put a placeholder in there for regions to say, hey, this is important, we need to discuss it. So actually, that might be the approach, as opposed to getting specific with everyone.
So, that's true. We don't have to change those, so we've been working with the accountability. That this is one that is a 23, 22, because we made the investment to do the work on it. So we kind of make sure.
I was talking about math pathways.
Okay,
Like the one that are actually written in here.
okay, gotcha.
Well,
Yeah, I just think this here, oftentimes in local government, we just study and they sit on the shelf. And we don't believe, and I just don't want to get, we spend a lot of money. For that,
It's the right thing to do.
so
Yeah.
it is, yeah. I'm interested in what you're saying.
so we need a motion, I think, to send this out. No?
Yes, please.
Yeah. So it's the CEOs and we'll also be.
And not question, but if you could, I could go see us, because I don't want them to be blindsided if you said it to them, and then they don't know it's coming, and all of a sudden, that put them in the meeting, they get themselves a piece of inspiration. I don't want it to look like. it- The one trying to figure it out. Okay. So I just want to make sure they see that.
Yeah.
Okay, I move that we move forward with the 2024 assessment tool. With extending the present plan for the one to be provide this information. Along with this release of papers to be. We get to see we have the plan.
Man.
I'll second.
All right, thank you. All in favor? Aye. Okay. So a motion to recess in executive session.
I think you do. I move that the governance committee recessed into executive session to discuss personal matters of non-elected personnel. The subject of the executive session would be discussed fiscal year 24, university CEO compensation adjustments, personnel matter, and the purpose of the executive session is to protect the privacy of one or more individual board employees. The session should last approximately 15 minutes and shall include the following persons who are either members of the body who will aid the discussion. Members of the governance committee, President and CEO Blake Flanders, Lori Portion, General Counsel John Yeary, and Project Specialist Julie Moore.
Yeah, so
we should
what
resume.
time your guys' meetings? 2:30?
So.
We need to do 10 minutes and call 25.
Okay, I would amend my motion to say 10 minutes, and by my watch, which will say 10:22.
That's official. Let's say you just want to call 10:25.
Okay.
Second. All in favor, please say aye.
All right.
Aye.
Aye.